All right, Kiss Army, welcome to the KissFAQ Podcast. Thank you for giving us your time today. Nothing is into your head. I hope you don't do any damage. This is a Kiss-related podcast by the board for the board. We hope that you enjoy.
So you're keen on music? Yes!
Welcome to episode 183 of the KissFAQ Podcast. I'm your host today, Julian Gill, admin on the FAQ cesspool. I'm joined by 69th Blizzard, the voice of reason, Ken. Good to see you. And from the Great White North, Canada, that is, Marcus Almighty. Mark. Gentlemen,
hello, sir.
Good to see you both. Lonnie, we miss you. We'll see you next time. Of course, I did see Lonnie recently in San Francisco. Had a great time as well, so that was awesome. Let's do a little bit of news. What news? I don't know of any news in the KISS world, so let's go to the Project Gemini world.
No,
Mark.
good news.
Well,
What did I read something today that said there would be possibly a Vault 2?
I'd much rather have your video, Ken, than a Vault 2. There you go. You're back. So, what news? A possibility about a Vault 2. Where on earth did you read that? It sounds like fake news to me.
Yeah. Supposedly, I don't know. Did someone say Gene mentioned it, or that he was asked about it? I don't know. I just saw it. I went by it quick. I was like, oh, that's interesting.
Well, there you go. They're still selling Vault 1. So, as you know, with anything to do with KISS these days, with the end of the road perhaps beckoning in 2019 and forever how many years they decide to keep going, start saving up your shekels because you're going to need them. One way or the other, you're going to need them to keep the good ship KISS floating. So, yeah. Vault 2, well, we know there was a lot that wasn't on Vault 1, so whether it's another Gene Vault or maybe a KISS Vault or maybe the kitchen sink, I don't care. I'll take it, whatever it is. Take my money. So,
Yeah.
All right, after that brief segue, let's get back to Project Gemini. Where's the Project Gemini Vault, Mark? And will you be hand delivering?
well, no vault yet. I think I need a couple dozen more records before I could probably do a vault. But at this point, though, what's interesting is that I have finally completed the keyboard tracks. So once those are done now, that means that I'm at the all-important lyric writing, vocal recording part, which is the part I always kind of look forward to, but sort of dread because, it's lyric writing and it's, you're always so unsure of yourself, whether it's tacky or you're writing something that's cheesy. You always think, you look at it and then you crumple it up and then you bring it back again. You don't know whether it's good or not. You know how it is. So I'm at that stage right now. A lot of people have been getting pretty excited about the advent of the third record. I've been posting a lot about it, little updates about things like that. So as of right now, I'm just about ready to do the vocals. After that's done, I just have guitar solos to do and it's done. And I just have to mix it and get it out there. So record 3 is going to be coming around the corner pretty soon. And I'm also pleased that all the European people have finally started getting older records that got sent out. So I'm glad that everybody has gotten their pre-orders finally. So thank you again.
Cool. A good update. And I'll just give an update on a couple of things. The Gene Simmons Vault Supplement third printing. I got that notification that it's shipping today from the printer, so it could take anywhere from 2 to 7 days to reach me, so I should be shipping next week, very latest by next weekend. So thank you to everyone who pre-ordered that. I'm, again, absolutely flabbergasted. I've done a special insert for the third edition, and here it is right here. I don't have one next to me. So I've got one other thing to pimp. Of course, we're still talking about the 2018 Rockin' Pod Expo in Nashville. I've got some new perks available, and just very few of these being made. And it is a smaller edition of Volume 1 of the KISS on Tour, so 1973 through 83, with a custom dust sleeve, because it is a cloth-bound hardcover. So, very few of these. $50 donation to the Rockin' Pod GoFundMe, which you can find the links for all that on the FAQ message board or on Facebook. $50. Get one of these. There's only 8 of them. 7, because I'm keeping one. So, that includes shipping in the U.S. Shipping worldwide, you'll need to pay $32 because it's heavy. It's one of my books. So just doing one of those. Let's talk about some of the recent stuff that you added to your Kiss collection before we get into today's topic. Mark, you've been shopping, you've just been recording?
Doing a lot of recording, but in the midst of it, of course, I've been scouring the internets looking for my, international things to add to my collection. That's my big thing right now. I'm kind of done with my Canadian and US stuff. I'm looking for international ones, although I do have one Canadian that I'll show. But the one, I have 3 things to show. So I have this, which is my Italian pressing of Unmasked. I don't know if you'll be able to see.
Yeah.
Nice. Durium?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought they'd been on phonogram by then, so cool.
So I got one of those. You'll be very surprised to see this one with the history of this album and me. But I have a Japanese Destroyer.
Nice. Blue label.
Yep. And the last one is actually something I'm not sure how interesting like American collectors find this, but us in our little Canadian Kiss collectors group that we have, this has been something that we've been looking and scouring everywhere for, and I'll show you in more detail what I mean. But this is Asylum.
Yay!
Right. And there's, as you know, the center label was a custom one for Canada, right? Which is the white one. There's 2 of them, right?
Yep.
So this one was the bitch to find, and I finally found the blue one.
Nice. Very good.
So, and that took a lot of us in the Kiss Canadian Collectors Club a little while to find. It's really hard to find for some reason, but I think all of us in that club have finally found one for our collections. So there's my 3 new things that I've added to my collection.
All right. Well, Ken, have you added anything interesting in the past week?
I didn't get anything in the mail, I don't think. But except for the magazine. So I got the Rock Candy.
Oh, you got
magazine.
that. Great. How is it? Because I have not purchased it.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good. I have a subscription. I think this is the last issue of the subscription, unless I decide to renew it. So I got lucky, and I think this last one. But yeah, the solo album articles is it's pretty good. And there's a couple of them are I think it's 14 pages of it, and there's different just articles and a couple of different interviews too in here. So I think they even mention your book. I want to say they do, but it's a good
Do they? I hope they mention my book.
Albums. What? I think they mention.
But anyway, it's always good when someone mentions the book.
Yeah,
whether it's in print or on other podcasts. Always get happy when they say that. So what
have been mentioned on a few.
Yeah,
this week.
Yeah, I know 3 Sides mentioned me and
Podcast.
Yeah,
good.
They talked about you.
So for right here, so I think this is the start of the article. Something about the Fantastic Four, blah blah blah, and it goes into some other Kulick, Bob Kulick interview, and so on. About they were John Hart. He was talking about when they were doing the solo albums and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's pretty good.
Excellent. So I haven't bought anything this week. It was all Def Leppard stuff because I'm working on the 2nd edition of that book still. Finished Pyromania, the on tour section, pretty much.
Well,
and High and Dry's done, and the club's done, and On Through the Night's done. So I think I may, just to piss off Al, you wanker, split that into 3 volumes and like the latest Def Leppard box set, which is collection 1 is the club era through Hysteria. Maybe do the 2nd edition in multi-volumes. I'll have to see how big it all turns out to be. So the only thing I've got that's kind of sitting on my desk still, I can't remember if I've shown this or not, but I'll hold it up, and if you see it, it's actually a pin. Yeah, it's about an inch inch tall, and it is a tongue. If you look at your Hotter Than Hell album, it is, of course, the design that John Van Hemsveld, or however you say his name, created and designed. And he actually designed this independently. There used to be a story online that he actually discussed this, and what he was trying to do is something obviously very similar to the Rolling Stones, that would give Kiss something that they could merchandise themselves and use, but it didn't fly at the time for whatever reason. I don't recall what he did say about why it wasn't picked up. But it was integrated into the design of the album cover, and now he's selling these pins through Yesterday's. So if you check out his name online and do Yesterday's, you can find this pin available, and it's pretty decent. It looks good. Could do with the red being a little bit brighter, but there you go. For what I paid. Totally worth having. Now, if I had a jean jacket, I could actually stick it on. That'd be even better, but I don't fit into my jean jacket anymore. So, all right. So let's get into today's topic, and it's kind of a corporal punishment topic. It's the crimes of Kiss, and someone did chime back in with a different title for the episode. But crimes of Kiss. What are some of the things that Kiss has done that are criminal in your mind? What are some of the laws that they've broken that they really ought to be punished for or taken to task for? Mark, how did you kind of approach this topic today?
Well, at first I was a little unsure about it, so I consulted the voice of reason earlier, and he guided me down the path of reason to how to approach it, and I think I'm very clear on how to approach it now. So I'll go with my first crime, and this will be no surprise to anybody who is a listener and has heard me before, but my first Kiss crime has to be that the hiring of Bob Ezrin for Destroyer. I think that was the biggest crime committed in history, in my opinion. This, of course, is my opinion. I know that others will disagree, but I feel that in all seriousness, I oftentimes wonder what would have happened if they would not have used Bob Ezrin and, for example, did continue with Eddie or got somebody else, like, who knows, like another producer at the time, like Jack Richardson or somebody else. What would it have been like if they had taken the Kiss Destroyer material and had it done with another producer? Because, like I've said in a few other posts and stuff like that, I've always felt that Bob Ezrin's records that he's done with Kiss have always ended up being very odd and stuff that were difficult for me to grasp onto, whether it was Elder or Destroyer, and even Revenge to some way. I mean, I remember the very first time I heard Revenge, my friend was playing it to me in his house, and he's like, check it out, it's a new Kiss. And I was like, oh, it's pretty good. But then when certain songs came up, I was kind of like, ew. Like when Spit came up, I was like, oh, what is that? Like, and I always find that there's those songs in there that kind of, make me kind of turn my nose up at the Bob Ezrin work. Now, like I said before, just the other night I was listening to Alice Cooper stuff, Love It to Death and stuff like that, and that's some of Bob Ezrin's great work, in my opinion. So I don't really have anything on him personally as a producer, but when he touches Kiss stuff, it just seems to turn to turd, in my opinion. So, that's why I think one of the biggest crimes, in my opinion, are one of them so far.
Pretty sure you're going to end up shitlisted for life too, Mark. So there we go. I couldn't disagree more. But Ken, let's move on to you.
Well, yeah, I have about 11 things here, but
good. That'll make up for my lack of a list because I'm totally winging it. Wasn't able to do any prep, so bail me out here.
Yeah, a couple hours ago, I sat down and I thought, okay, what do they should have done or not should have done or whatever. So one of them was that I wrote down was Kiss should have released the Elder as originally intended, meaning, not succumbing to the record company, maybe demands to make it more, try to make it, fix it or make it more rock and roll. Have Bob Ezrin, have to take out all the the talking parts, speaking parts, and this and that, and then the running order, of course, too. So I would have rather them just go with it. You went with it that way. it was intended to be released a certain way, and then they just put it out and then changed the order of songs, and which mixed up the story and made it more confusing for the listener. Besides the different style of music that they're playing, they could confuse them there, and they got confuse them with the story. So they should have released it as intended.
Yeah, I just did another podcast with some fellas about that album. So, it's a very, very jumbled album indeed. So, yeah, I agree. That probably is a bit of a crime. Mine, I think the things that immediately popped into my mind when we talk about Kiss Krimes, immediately, obviously with doing so much on Crazy Nights lately, I think the exclusion of Sword and Stone from that album, for whatever reason, is a crime, because it was the sort of anthem that I think could have done things that Crazy Nights itself as a song simply could not have. I think it's vastly, would have changed the dynamic of the album completely. It wouldn't have fit whatsoever, in hindsight, but, it's another one of those what seems or feels like a lost opportunity that the band didn't take to have a powerful song out at the time. They could even have just released it, early on in '87 as a tide you over for the long delay in between an album. That was the perfect sort of anthem that Kiss was really lacking. There's another one which I'm going to mention because, It's My Life not being included on a Kiss album. For the exact same reason. They're anthems, but it's clear that one member or a producer torpedoed either of those songs for whatever reason. Ultimately, it doesn't matter what the reasons are. We as fans can go on and on and on about how awesome and how great we think these songs are, how they would have been hits. Well, who the hell knows? But I just really like both of those as great anthems from the 80s, which were kind of missing from the band's catalog. The flag waving. So, to me, those are definite crimes.
Agree.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's continue with you, Mark, on another one of the things that you think is a crime that doesn't include Bob Ezra.
Well, okay, this doesn't include Bob, so. But what I do feel, and actually I've been thinking about this quite a bit. One thing I think is a bit of a crime is I wish that Kiss would embrace some aspects of their past a little bit more than they do, and I'll explain what I mean by that. For example, like every time we do this podcast, I see you guys in the background. I see that Beatles box, for example, on Ken's shelf there, and I can't help but think, for example, how the Beatles, for example, whoever's been in charge of their whole history and stuff have taken it upon themselves to go out and re-release a bunch of their stuff from the past on Blu-ray, like Help and all these other films that they've done. Why hasn't Kiss embraced something like, let's say, for example, Kiss Meets the Phantom? Why not do a Blu-ray release with that? It's coming up to the anniversary year now. Why don't they? I know they don't like the movie, but who cares? Their fans love it. We seem to enjoy it enough that I'm sure that if it was done in a re-release form, even with them doing like a commentary with it, talking about their thoughts about it, I think lots of people would buy it. And because it was done obviously on film, it's perfectly suited for a Blu-ray update to be done. And I think that the fact that they don't embrace these sorts of opportunities to get this stuff done is a real crime, I think, because other bands do it. And even to stuff I feel that they might be a little bit, not ashamed about, but might roll their eyes about, like, oh boy, because that was early in their career. Maybe they don't see it as strongly as some of their later material, but they still at least embrace it enough that they know that their fans love it enough, and they put it back out there in an updated form. So that's one thing I think is a real crime that Kiss has done.
I blame Yoko.
Mm. Yeah.
Okay. Ken, let's move on to your next pick.
Well, since he said that one, I'm going to kind of something that ties in to that. And I know I had it here. Here it is, right here is one of the last ones I wrote down is Kiss doesn't listen to their fans. And they say they do. They say the fans are, their boss. They always say that, but they're not listening. They're not putting out the things that we keep telling them that they should be putting out. Whether like Mark's example of a special edition of Kiss Me the Phantom. We talk about the box sets for the albums. We talk about other videos, Kissology 3 or 4, that is. We got 3, but 4. Stuff like that, they promise us stuff, and they say, we're the boss, and I don't believe it. I believe the boss is Paul Stanley, and that's where the problem lies right now.
Yeah, I'm almost wondering, what did Paul discover in his closet this weekend? Last week was the Wicked Lester tape and the original T-shirt. This week was lyrics to Black Diamond, which on the back of it had the original lyrics to Keep Me Waiting. And someone else pointed out for me, Molly, which I didn't bother scrolling down the page when I flipped it. So, what is Paul doing?
We don't know, and until he actually does something, I'm assuming he's not doing anything but just looking through boxes in his garage or attic or whatever and reminiscing a little bit. But he just, I don't know if he may just be sharing this as far as with the fans on his tweets. That might be as far as it goes. I hope that's not true. I hope he actually puts it into something like, well, maybe we should monetize this stuff and do that. So I'm just hoping until I see it. I don't know.
Yeah, I definitely hope so too, because, if he keeps stumbling upon all these little gems in there, I mean, he could make it into something definitely for sure. If some kind of memorabilia book or something, like make something out of it where Kiss fans would be very excited to see this stuff. Because I mean, I know that when they showed that quarter-inch reel there with those early Wicked Lester songs, I know that people jumped all over that right away. I mean, that was one of the first things they talked about on podcast. The latest episode was all about that. Yeah. So, obviously it's a big deal to people within the Kiss community. So I'm with you, Ken. I really hope that he isn't just, pulling our tail here and just, showing us things and then not doing anything with it. I hope he really is maybe just, hyping us up with something in hopes of putting all this into something that, could relate into some sort of a release of some sort.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so I'm going to kind of stir the cesspool a little bit with this Kiss crime. Because a cesspool is exactly where it belongs. Anytime Gene Simmons or Paul Stanley refer to Ace and Peter as drug addicts, and that's over the last 5 years, I think that is a crime. I think that needs to stop. I'm tired of hearing of it. I think that Peter has been clean probably for a very long time. Ace works at his sobriety very hard. Every time he has a cold, people think he's fallen off the wagon. But when Gene and Paul, when Ace has a bad night, everyone's like, oh, he's fallen off the wagon. He's probably taking some cold medicine or is sick, and he's 8 years old, 67 years old. Come on, guys. Cut him a slack, because I think he works very hard at his sobriety. These guys should actually be applauded for being clean after, what both of them did in the 70s and Ace into the 80s, that they're even still with us. I think Gene and Paul should be absolutely celebrating. Look at the powers of dealing with your demons and conquering those addictions. They should be celebrating it at every opportunity that they can to say that we are blessed that Peter Criss and Ace Frehley are still with us because they've worked so hard to cleaning themselves up. Instead, what we hear, addiction this, junkies that, and I find it really does denigrate Peter and Ace unnecessarily. It's okay to say that, and I'm going to paraphrase as Paul Stanley, I don't want to work with people like that anymore. I just don't want them in my in my circle because I don't have fun when I do that. I'll be totally honest. Be honest. Don't use something that is not the case anymore. And stop reminding everyone, because anyone who does work with addiction knows that it's a day-by-day battle. It's not something that I'm clean. I don't have to think about it again, because people will know that you have to think about it an awful lot to maintain that sobriety. So that's one that I really feel the need to get off my chest, because it's one that I don't want to read. And I seem to recall that Gene had said it again in Sweden during the vault experience. He was asked a question, you know, in the press about touring with the former members for the final tour, and either saying it or alluding to that answer again. And now that he's fronting a pot company, of course, it's time to get down off that high horse, because you know, you can't do one and continue to bag on the other. They're very much connected to the same.
I think it's kind of interesting, though, that why he would even do it now, because I mean, from what I kind of got the impression, it almost seemed like he was trying to. No, I'm talking about bad mouthing those guys.
Oh, sorry.
I mean, I kind of got the impression, that things were starting to get mended up. I mean, Ace had been hanging out with Gene on a lot of his, you know, vault events, and you know, it seems like it almost seemed like they were trying
to. Peter came out to his vault in New York. Ace has been there to a few, and you know, done lullabies to the home experience for Gino. You know, so sorry to interrupt, but get back to your thought.
No, but that's my point exactly. You just, you know, solidified it, because I just think that because of all that, the fact that he would say anything negative about them is a real head scratcher to me. I don't understand where that comes from, because, like I said, I think that he's been working at it very hard. I agree with that, and I think Peter's done a great job in keeping himself healthy. He looks really good for his age. I mean, the guy looks great, you know.
He looks the best out of those 4 original members. Peter Criss wins. He sounds great. He looks great. He's beat cancer. He's beat other demons in his life, and probably at a very happy place in his life. So, you know, congratulations, Peter. You are the winner.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, why... You know, is there? I can't imagine what it could be, because I mean, everybody seems to be doing okay now as far as finances and stuff like that. So, what would be the point? Back in the '80s, I could understand they were still, you know, within a sort of bitter battle. You know, who's going to do better with their careers now, and blah blah blah. So, of course, that kind of dirt will be brought up. But now, that just doesn't seem to make any sense.
No. Okay. Now on to a happier. Wait, no, we're talking about Krimes. It's not going to be a happy, warm, fuzzy episode today. All right, who's up next? Is that you, Mark?
I think Mark is.
Mark, back to you. All right.
Well, this one is to me a sort of minor crime, but I mean, I guess it could be explained away. But I've always kind of wondered why they didn't give Mark St. John a little bit more slack, and maybe not give him more of a chance. Like, he came in, they started touring, they brought him along, you know, sure, his hand was all shot, but obviously his hand got better because he started doing stuff after and was playing again. So why they didn't give him the benefit of the doubt and maybe at least stick with him a little bit longer? I think the biggest crime to me is I would have loved to have seen at least one tour cycle with him in the band, just so that at least we would have some kind of historical footage with him involved in a live capacity, not just one video and an album. You know, I'd really have liked to have seen him, what he could have done in a full capacity, like playing some of these old classic Kiss songs. I know there's a tape circulating somewhere, like a really terrible audience recording with him playing, but I would have loved to been able to, you know, see him in a better sort of light, you know, have him play a lot of shows, you know, and then maybe there would have been a soundboard recording down the line with him. That's one crime I think that's for me to say. Like, I mean, that's one crime I think, you know, maybe not to other people, but I would have loved to have seen what he would have done in that capacity. I think they should have gave him a little bit longer time to get himself together.
I would bet they have a sound tape from Binghamton. Where was it? Binghamton, Poughkeepsie, and Baltimore. So there's the full show from Binghamton. Is actually, there's an upgrade out there, Mark. So track it down, because it is.
Oh, really?
Actually, yeah, it's actually a lot better than the one that was, you know, out there for many years. Does sound. Yeah, with Mark, I think how much more of a chance, because they didn't give him any chance whatsoever. So anything, you know, more of a chance could have been like 2 more shows. It's just one of those very weird situations. There must have been something like a Vegas wedding that they woke up married to Mark St. John in the morning and was like, holy shit, annulment. Because that relationship was never consummated. Well, I guess it was technically in the studio. But you know, one of those very weird things with the band, that there must be more to the story. There must be something other than him not being the right fit, him not being able to play the same solo twice. there's got to be something else that they've kept under wraps rather than come. I mean, even Paul in his book didn't, throw him under the bus to the certain extent that he might have, I guess, if there was some reason. But Mark's gone, which is a dreadful shame. And Mark certainly never really spoke about the reality either. So, who knows?
Yeah.
Ken.
Okay. Well, the next one I have is that the band during the reunion era, they did not record, Psycho Circus, the Psycho Circus album with all 4 original members as a band, meaning the complete album, where they all went in, they all recorded, they all went in the studio together and recorded it. And we'll never know what it could have been. I think, obviously, it's partly, the fault of these lawyers that they're asking for more money, and that's what they blame it on. But they still could have got it done somehow, I think. And then the Kiss turns out, and then they basically lie about it for quite a while. That as if the fans weren't going to figure out who's the drumming style is different, and the guitar soloing is different.
I didn't figure it out. So.
You didn't figure it out? Yeah.
No, my review's still up online. If I try and rewrite history and say, "Oh yeah, I knew it wasn't Peter," people are going to point out that I did say that's the best drumming I've heard Peter do in a long time. So
well, there you go. So. So yeah, I don't know. It's very possible that the album could have been a lot better. Maybe not. Maybe it's the songs. That's part of the problem too. But I think it would have been better actually had they gone in and recorded an album right before the first reunion. Somehow recorded it around then. When the excitement was still there, before they started getting sick of each other again in touring, and that sort of stuff, those other things start coming up. I think that would have been a better time. The excitement would have been there. Maybe energy, would have been a bit more electric in the studio at that time if they would have done it at that point, instead of when they did and then not having everybody there anyway on every song.
So before they started annoying each other, so that would have left them about a week window to record an album. And I'm pretty sure working on an album would have hastened the demise of the business relationship. So we would have ended up with an EP and no live worldwide 96, 97, 98, 99, 2000. Oh God! All right, my next pick is something I think is probably going to be very obvious: Alive 3 without Eric Carr. Alive 3 should always have been with Eric for the amount of time he was in the band. I'm going to now be revisionist and say that in 1991, after his passing, they should have put Revenge on hold a little bit and immediately released a live album with Eric Carr celebrating his life and his music and his time with the band. What it would have been in terms of the recordings, that would have been tough to kind of pick from most of the shows. I think it would probably have to have been Cold from the Hot in the Shade tour on one of those 2 shows that were professionally filmed, because at that point they were big into the video cycle. But and that's no disrespect to Eric Singer either, because it made sense after Revenge came out for them to then do Alive 3. But that should have been Alive 4. Alive 3 definitely should have been Eric Carr, and I'm going to absolutely say that it should have been from the Hot in the Shade tour as well, and married with a video. Just wrong. And we still don't have a properly mixed full live performance, do we, of Eric? Can't think of one. None of the stuff on Kissology exactly counts as well. So once it open the archive up, people.
Yeah.
All right, Mark, back to you.
Well, mine is sort of plays off of yours a little bit. One of the crimes I think is pretty big in my mind is I think that the fact that they didn't have Eric Carr sing on more Kiss records. He only appears on one record and then one. Well, of course, I don't count Beth. To me, that's not really something that
No.
I consider an Eric Carr, contribution. But other than Little Caesar, there's nothing else with him singing. And I mean, I really think that he had a good enough voice, even as far back as when he joined the band, to have been able to be put on a song. I mean, they put Peter on, gave him at least a song for every record to sing on. Why they couldn't give him something and continue that sort of cycle where they had everybody singing, on the records? I think that was a real crime, because he's a good singer. I mean, Gene even gave him one of his own songs to sing live instead of him doing it live,
Yeah.
So why not just let him go and do a couple of songs on there? Like, why not just have Gene write a song for a record and get Eric to sing it instead? I think that was a real missed opportunity, because I've always thought that he had a good voice, not only for background singing, but for actual lead vocal stuff. I thought that he did a good job, and I think that that's another missed opportunity that they had, in a real crime, because just like the crime with the Noah Live 3 with Eric on drums, which I have to be 110% behind that. I think that you're 100% right on that. They should have definitely did that with him, because he put in so much into that band. He deserved to be on a live album like that, and I think that he deserved to be more present on the studio albums as well, vocally.
Yep, and just think back to 1981. I think it was the Australian Kiss Army newsletters at the time that teased hearing a new voice, on the Kiss album that became The Elder, that they thought Eric was possibly, maybe they're just teasing, who knows, even as far back as 1981, that it was considered. They knew he could sing, and maybe he was too good a singer. You have to remember, with Peter and Ace, founding members of the band who were building the band before it became a brand. So there was much more of a reason to keep Peter happy, if they weren't going to dump him for all the complaints that they've now leveled at him, that they were going through in the early years. That they were more willing to say, Peter, here's a song, to have those voices, to try and be the rock and roll Beatles. But once you become a successful band, and you've lost members and the balance has shifted, then there's less inclination to say, okay, Eric, you've been really good on this tour. Now, as a reward, you can have a Porsche, a cookie, or a lead vocal. What's behind door number 3, Eric? This is your life. So I kind of understand why it's different that, Eric didn't get it, but I totally agree. It was a crime. Love to have had more Eric stuff, and that's why I've enjoyed Unfinished Business and Rockology so much. I hope more stuff surfaces with him singing. It's always exciting. All right, Ken.
Okay, well, my next one goes back to video or movie, whatever you want to call it. The crime is that they don't have a proper documentary out, and of course, there is one that's been created and it's shelved for whatever reasons. But I'd like a documentary similar to what like the Tom Petty documentary is or was, that's out there, which is hours long, a few hours, and it's really good. I think they could do something similar to that, even better if they wanted to. And imagine, just imagine, Tom Petty, died not that long ago. And imagine had he waited. You wouldn't have him there talking during the documentary and questions and talking about all of that stuff was very, very interesting in that documentary. Firsthand stuff straight out of his mouth. Are they going to wait for someone to freaking die and kiss before they get something out, and there's going to be, oops, well, we can't do it now. It's too late. You're not going to have a first-hand interview with Gene and Paul. Sure, they've done interviews in the past, and there's probably interviews from this documentary, but still, if you're going to do a new one and full out, they just need to get it done and start, or stop complaining about how much money they're going to get up front and all that crap. I mean, come on, you got enough money. Let's get something out for the fans. Again, that goes back to my other point about doing things for the fans. The fans want this. Just do it.
Yeah, but maybe they figured that the fans know they're happy anyway, so why bother?
That they're not happy?
Yeah, everyone always...
They'd be happier if they put something out.
Well, yeah, I know that, and you know that.
Fans are fans.
But what do they focus on when they read stuff? Do they focus on the people who are saying, this is great, this is awesome, we love it, we're so excited to finally be able to pay for it, and thank you so much for doing it? Or do they focus on the guy who says, well, it doesn't have this, it sucks? Is it that one negative voice is the loudest in the pool? Or,
Well, I don't know who they're listening to. I don't know if they should listen. I don't know what Doc is telling them. Maybe they don't listen to him anyway.
What does Doc actually do these days?
I haven't seen him in so long. I have a feeling he's just, getting them ready for the next supposed big tour. But, geez, they need to, crack the whip.
Yeah. Does he go into the office every day? I'm working on Kiss shit today.
I have no idea.
How does that work? No offense is meant to Doc, and I'm just kind of curious. What does the Kiss guy do? I'd be fascinating. Doc, you don't need to call me.
No, they should do a doc about Doc.
Yeah, that could be interesting.
He has quite the career if you really think about it.
He has a hell of a career, absolutely. That'll be a book I read if he does a autobiography or someone does one on him. First day purchaser, without a doubt, absolutely staggering what he's done in his career. I mean, when we talk about getting Bill O'Coin into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Doc McGee is one of they should definitely be thinking about managers, a group or a classification for managers to get inducted, because he's one of the heavyweights. So
because if you look at to hear about all the stuff he's done, and even look at some of the books like The Dirt, he's all over that book too. I mean, so there's lots of stuff you can reference to with his career. I mean, just what he did with Motley Crue alone, and that whole kerfuffle with the Moscow Peace Festival is enough to write a book on. So. A lot with Doc. I mean, I'm guessing now he's probably just doing a lot of legal stuff for whatever kind of toys come out or whatever kind of release of something that comes out. He probably oversees stuff, I'm sure, with those guys to this point. I'm guessing, but
who knows? That'd be interesting. So maybe we'll get to read about it one day. All right. So my next pick is: it's a crime that Kiss and/or their label and or their rights owners have not leveraged the catalog properly. And that totally goes into the archival releases. That's a matter of point of the 1997 remasters still being the current versions on release, even after they reissued Kiss 40 or Kissteria 40, whatever the vinyl and the new mixes were, the new remasters, that they never hopped on a proper reissue like the Beatles did in the U.S. with their mini sleeves and their mono mixes and their...
Yes.
Come on. They did the Casablanca singles set, which was fantastic. So, very cool. They didn't do the mono version of that, which is a bit of a bummer, because there were mono versions of a lot of those singles as well, which are somewhat different. My inner geek saying, Julian, they also did do the 8-track version. Okay. Shut up.
Okay, geez.
But they have not gone back and properly done a whole catalog revamp. They have not done anything digitally exciting other than the absolute bare minimum. Abject laziness on behalf of whomever the decider is. And this is not an attack on anyone. It is just a commentary. So I'm beyond the point of getting bummed out at the things that other bands are doing, be they Pearl Jam or Metallica, and I'm talking about with their catalog, not suing people. Metallica's been excellent, even to this day, of releasing their shows for you to be able to buy. I know there's probably a reason why Kiss doesn't, and that's fine, but there's plenty of stuff that they could be leveraging. So... no CDs. I mean, come on. If I go into a store and see another fucking remaster from 1997, I just want to scream. It's like, come on, do something. They're past their sell-by date at this point, and I would happily buy the catalog again. How many people bought the freaking Kissteria box set? I mean, lots.
Yeah.
And lots of people bought the vinyl as well. Why wasn't there a companion? So it is not being cultivated properly, in my opinion. There must be some reason why it's not, that we're not privy to, and that's fine. But it's just embarrassing in this day and age. You know, even Def Leppard and its collection that it just put out. Look at what you got in that box that hadn't already been released. Very little. Hysteria was remastered a couple of years ago and has been released like 4 different times in recent years. Pyromania was a deluxe edition with the live show from the Forum tacked on. High and Dry, that was what we were waiting for, basically, the remaster, which is essentially the same as the iTunes version, and the same with On Through the Night. The Rarities CD, there's some stuff on there that's new. I think 3 songs total. There's not much new in there. It's basically a big cash grab rehash, and Kiss isn't doing anything like that. They just never do anything. And no matter how many times you see the Pink Floyds or the Zeppelins, you know, or Blacks,
King Crimson
goes on and on.
Frank Zappa.
Anyone else?
Zappa. Zappa's a prime example of it. I went to the record store the other day, and his section is huge. And I collect Zappa stuff on CD. And on the spine, there's a little number at the top that tells you what number this release is out of the collection. He's up to like 117 or something like that.
Holy crap.
But he releases, he releases there's a ton of stuff that the family corporation there's releasing. Like they have road tapes, which is like sound recordings from various tours. Like there's Road Tapes Volume 1, Road Tapes Volume 2. They have stuff from his very, very early time before he even did the Frank Zappa and the Mothers, like little 1/4-inch stuff that they found and that they put on CD. They've done a whole bunch of different kinds of releases from different tours. Like it's just incredible what these bands have been doing. And King Crimson, I'll always hype them because even now they're going back on tour again. And I guarantee you, in about a week or two, on their DGM site, they're going to have a song from every show on that tour available for download for free, or the whole show you can download for a low price there, and you can have the whole tour on CD or on your computer in digital form if you want it. I mean, why aren't they not mining these same ideas?
Yeah. And Michael Cavaccini, who has been on the show several times, did a great article that you can read on his website. Johnny Mathis, The Voice of Romance, the Columbia Original Album Collection, a 68 CD box containing all of Johnny's Columbia albums. Now imagine that with Kiss. You know, again, the CD box of every single Kiss album, including abominations like Smashes or the Alive 4 Millennium Show, just everything as a CD chronologically from beginning to end. You know, if you're going out next year, guys, think about it. Just a big ass box of every official release. Throw in all the international versions, so the Best of Kiss with the Japanese cover, the one no one can ever find, the South African releases, the French, the German, Japanese, put it all into one big box. You know, you guys don't mind rehashing stuff, you know, so the Kiss box to end all Kiss boxes as a CD set, you know, that's probably still a good chunk of change, and, you know, leverage the damn catalog.
Yeah.
Sakes. Before your fans start dying, and Jesus, we've been very, very patient.
Yeah, I know.
All right, take my blood pressure pill. All right, so Mark, we're back to you now, aren't we? Was that the end of my rant? I kind of missed where I was. Got some work done. Damn it.
Well, but it was an excellent point though, and I think that it's that what we just discussed could be an episode on its own. There's so much to talk about with that. But anyways, one thing that I thought that is a crime, again, this is probably not a major crime, but it's always something that's kind of bothered me, knowing how much Bill Aucoin was a man who always had a video camera with him present. And I know that maybe he wasn't with Kiss all the time in the early days, but one thing I think that's a bit of a crime is that there isn't a really good, or at least I haven't seen one. You can correct me if I'm wrong here. I have not seen a very good filmed footage of them from their very first tour, minus Coventry. Okay, like I mean, something from their first Canadian tour, or even that New Year's Eve show, that very first show that they did, that big hyped one there with Blue Oyster Cult.
Cool.
Like, wish they would have actually, yeah, I wish they would have actually filmed that thing in full to see it. You know, I mean, that's one crime for me, because I mean, they have a lot of stuff filmed that you can see on, you know, various DVDs and stuff, but there's nothing really full from the first album cycle.
Yep, agreed.
I agree. If they have it, they should get it out there again. You know, monetize it.
Monetize it while you can, so that you benefit and not your heirs. That's how I look at it. Ken has gone to yours. I gotta get in trouble today.
All right. My next one is, it's a crime that Kiss did not perform at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Whether it was the current band or whether they should have just somehow gotten the 4 originals there, or, you know, the whole party of people that were there. They should have done it. I don't know. I know there's excuses about saying, well, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame said you had to have makeup on. I still think they could have gotten it. You know, I don't think that's the whole story. I think they still could have played without makeup. And even, you know, I just don't get it. After seeing other Rock and Roll Hall of Fame performances like this year's and other years with other bands, it just doesn't make sense. You have extra guys in there, guys filling in, you know, Geddy Lee filling in with Yes, that sort of stuff, right? I just don't get it. It should have happened. I think they're just being too. I don't know. It has to be coming from Gene and Paul. Why they didn't do it, and I'm going to say again, I'm going to blame Paul mostly for it. That not happening. It's just, I'm sorry. I think it's going to be mostly Paul, because he's steering the ship, as far as I'm concerned, as far as I can tell, for many years now.
Yeah, Gene
Ken's going to get a message from him.
No, Gene seems pretty chill about most things. You know, he's kind of shrugs his shoulders and just goes with it. Paul is a different type of personality. I mean, I love to be wrong. I'd love for you to be wrong on that, Ken. You know, for it to be someone at the Hall of Fame or Doc, to have been, you know, the issue. You know,
they don't do free concerts.
Because again, it was such for the fans and for the band. What would it have meant, particularly? I think Peter up there doing Beth, Ace up there doing 2000 Man or whatever, know, Shock Me, and Gene and Paul. Come on, Detroit Rock City and God of Thunder. You know, let's just go with kind of their signature songs. To have been doing it at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame together, and there is no reason why any of the former members that they wanted to include could not have been included off to the side or supporting them, you know, on stage. And that's why without makeup would have been the only way that they could do it, because you couldn't have the 4 originals in makeup and the guys who've taken over the guises. It just would have been, it would have been, and maybe it would have been perfect for Kiss, because this is Kiss, you know, kind of the utterly dysfunctional, weird and crazy, and you never know what's going to happen. So maybe that.
They're the Halloween masks. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, that would have been. That's a good one. So that is.
It's a crime.
Yeah, I'm very sad now.
Sorry about that.
But you've helped me to remember another crime.
You're welcome.
Kisstree. That Kisstree stopped after that Abomination Volume 2. There could have been so many more volumes. If you think about what they've done with the Monster Book, you know, that could have been a Kisstree volume in itself, and that would have been big enough. Yeah. You know, for a photo book. Again, I've said it before. A touring history as a Kisstree 3. You could have done so many different sorts. You could have done the merchandise. Actually, you know, like some of these projects that are going on. I know Nicholas is getting close to his, you know, collecting Kiss nearly being done. I'm sure they've got tons of memos and stuff that they could have. That Kisstree as a series Again, $200 or whatever inflation takes that size book up to being every 3 to 5 years in the number of years since the second one came out, that I still think it could have been very much done. And if you get the fan projects that are worthy to become a history, to basically do a deal with the fans, and most fans could very easily be bullied or manipulated into taking pennies on the dollar just to have their name on the inside cover of, and have done most of the work. So I think that was a missed opportunity. It's one I hope they do pick up, and that they do a History Volume 3. How or what? I mean, I don't know. But maybe it covers more of the history after History 1, which is a good chunk of history, in the same format now, continuing the story in their voice, or Jeff Kitt's voice, I think, was who wrote most of the dialogue in the original one. So, the books look great. Mine sits over there on the floor because I don't have a shelf big enough to put it on. So it's still an impressive thing, but it's a crime that they didn't continue to build on it, even though they took those steps with History 2 to continue. All right, Mark.
Well, my other crime is similar to what you just talked about, and that is that they haven't done Kissology for. That's one thing that's been really bothering me, because I know that they've already posted so many times what could be on Kissology 4, the potential things that are on there. And even if half of those things are true to be on there, I mean, I would love to see it, and you had even, Tommy Thayer saying that he knows for a fact there's a full pro shot. Asylum showed that, hasn't been seen yet, and stuff like that. I mean, all these things could be put on to a Kissology 4 and released. And I think that's long overdue. I know there's all kinds of, legal red tape about why they can't call it Kissology anymore. But you know what? Big deal. Don't call it Kissology then. Call it something else and just release it. And, from this period on, call it this new name or whatever, and that's it. I don't think fans will care that it's not called Kissology. They just want to see the material like I want to see it, I mean, and I would love to see some of these shows, like the last Cobo Hall shows, for example. I thought that would be a great thing to see, or, but I just want to see these things that are in the vault that they've told us that they have for a fact, and finally put it out there. Again, it's why they're not doing it is just beyond me,
Yep.
I agree.
Agreed.
Long overdue.
All right, so we're just about at the hour mark. So, Ken, let's make your final pick the last one for this episode, and we'll continue our complaints at some time in the future, because without a doubt, Kiss's history is full of crimes. So, Ken, give us your last pick today.
Yeah, I have more picks, but I'll go with a kind of a simple one. It's kind of something that just bugs me more than anything else. It probably doesn't bug other people, but it bugs me. And it's the way Gene's been doing his makeup since. I know. Not the other makeup, but his Kiss stage makeup. I'd want him to do his makeup like he did back from 77 era through 80, maybe 82, somewhere in that period. It's gotten a lot weirder and thinner and stretched out. I know his face has changed. He's had facelifts or whatever, but still the makeup, it's drawn on. I mean, you can make it similar to the original, or the Super Kiss era, or whatever you want to call it. It's just, it doesn't look right to me. It doesn't look as mean or demonish as it used to when it did back in the day. It just bugs the heck out of me. I don't know what it is. I just don't like. I think it's gotten maybe lazy. The makeup part of it. And his is the most visual, or recognized makeup, and I would think he'd want to keep it to like it, used to be. I don't know. I just don't like it the way it is right now. It could be a lot better.
Okay.
So, Gene, if you're listening, and I know you're not, I know you're not. Please go back to the, even the 70, the Live 2, that great great picture there. That makeup right there was perfect. So can you go back to that, please?
I think you're more likely to see Paul Stanley in the raccoon makeup. I mean, the bandit.
Yeah, the bandit makeup. Yeah, that'd be interesting. It came out like that one time.
Before that ever happens. So, all right. Looking through our comments on last week's episode, someone got annoyed when we mentioned the vault. So I'm going to mention the vault just gratuitously to annoy you this week. We're not actually going to discuss anything with it. So that is our episode for this week. That is some of the things that we consider to be Kiss's crimes that they've committed against their fandom or themselves or the world or humanity or the intergalactic empire. But whatever. What are some of the things that you think are crimes that Kiss have committed? I mean, these are the most egregious sins that they have committed in the Church of Christianity. The things that you really need an ointment or cream or liquid medicine to assuage. Wherever you listen to our show, be it on Facebook, on YouTube, or on the FAQ cesspool, if you want to leave your comments and your thoughts on the ones that we've suggested or your own, that we'd very much like your contributions and your input, because then we'll steal them for another episode down the road. So we thank you for listening, and from Mark, from Ken and myself, we'll see you next time. Bye. Thank you for spending time listening to the KissFAQ podcast today. All sales are final, there are no refunds. If you'd like, look us up on Facebook or come over to the KissFAQ message board and discuss the topic we broadcast today. Don't forget to rate us on iTunes, Spreaker, or wherever you've listened to the show. We hope you'll join us again.